Hello students, in the previous lecture we discussed about the emergence of feminism as an alternative theory in the post-Cold War period, the particular terms and concepts used in feminism, different waves of feminism, types of feminist approaches and their common elements, and also discussed about the liberal feminist approach. In this lecture, we will discuss some other approaches like the socialist and the Marxist feminism, radical feminism, postmodern feminism, constructivist feminism, post-colonial feminism and cultural feminism. Let us first start with the socialist and Marxist feminism. So how we will proceed, we will basically be looking at the different approaches like, the liberal feminism, socialist and Marxist feminism, then radical feminism, we will be talking of postmodern feminism, then constructivist feminism, then post-colonial feminism, and then we will be also talking about the cultural feminism. Now let us focus our attention on socialist and Marxist feminism. The socialist and the Marxist feminists assert that the union of capitalism and patriarchy are the two main reasons why women are oppressed domestically through domestic labor as a reflection of capital workforce. So basically these two brands of feminism which we have mixed as socialist and Marxist, they have similar position on certain issues, but they have methodological problems. But anyway, they are basically talking of the relationship of capitalism with patriarchal societies ordered in such a way that it contributes for the growth and expansion of capitalism. Marxist feminist particularly asserts that the oppressed status of women can be attributed to the unequal treatment at both the workplace and in the house. The socialist feminism suggests that socialism handles the problem of the oppressed and exploited people. Henceforth, it habitually takes the problem of women into consideration. So basically, in general you will find that socialism talks about everybody but not specifically for women, and that's why the socialist feminists they think that the problem of women should be taken separately, not in general. It argues that with the perception on women as individuals with sole responsibility for reproduction, they will continue to be marginalized at the societal level. So if there is a perception that women are mainly responsible for reproduction, that is the reason why they are marginalized in the society. So that has to change. Besides financial and personal exploitation, the institution of marriage, childbirth and child care, prostitution and domestic work are tools for degrading women and the work they do, particularly in a male-dominated patriarchal society. So if you associate women with marriage, childbirth and child care, maybe prostitution or domestic work, so these activities are in a way or they are considered as tools for degrading women. Moreover, socialist and Marxist feminist underlying concept emerge as gender in preference to Marxism's concept of class. So this is how feminists are, the socialist and Marxist feminists, they are different from Marxism, because while Marxists use class as a concept, as an analytical category, so the socialist and Marxist feminists, they use gender as a category of understanding international politics or as an analytical tool. While Marxists criticize feminists for having low opinion of class division by prioritizing gender, feminists maintain that Marxism bears a simple similarity to other traditional theories in terms of male dominant nature. So this is how Marxism is no different from the mainstream theories, because it is not specifically talking of gender, the gender disadvantages, rather it is talking of the class. Rather, when you talk of class, in a way it talks about the lower class, higher class, or it talks about bourgeois proletariat. It does not speak specifically about the women who constitute almost half of the society. But so if you do not employ gender as a category of research, of analysis, then that will perpetuate the kind of gender hierarchy in the society. Now let us discuss about the views of radical feminists. Radical feminism believes that it is the male dominated hierarchy or the patriarchy that is responsible for the oppressed status of the women today. So basically the radical feminists, they think that because of patriarchy, because of male domination in the society, so there is oppression, there is inequality with the women. Therefore it believes that going to the root or the source of the problem. So if patriarchy is the problem, so better we have to go to the root of the problem or the source of the problem. If changes are not brought about in this hierarchy, then there can be no equality between men and women, and a total reconstruction of the society is necessary to bring about the desired reform. So if the society is patriarchal, if it is giving subordinate position to the women, so that male dominated society or the male dominated hierarchy must be broken, must be demolished, so that you get better status for women. So that was their concern. In that respect, radical feminists support the idea of dismissing the patriarchal social structure and suggest that the establishment of a matriarchal order in which women would not have a secondary legal status. So the basic concern of radical feminists is that if patriarchy is a problem or the male dominated hierarchy is a problem, so there is a need to break that, there is a need to change it and replace it with another social order, that is the matriarchal order. In the same line of reasoning, radical feminism refers to the necessity of changing and strengthening the role of women in the production system of the society, in the process of establishing a new social order where gender-based division of labor is resisted to the highest degree. So if you associate the women with the production system of the society, so that may create problem, because it is based on the gender-based division of labor. So that needs to be changed, that needs to be reformulated. So that was the main argument of radical feminism. Next we have postmodern feminism. The postmodern feminists reject the arguments of the liberal feminist approach and attempts to deconstruct the realist interpretation of international relations in order to uncover the concealed but existent influences of gender. So basic purpose of postmodern feminism is to deconstruct the kind of mainstream theories, particularly realist theory, and to uncover their hidden biases, their influences on the gender. So that was the main concern of postmodern feminism. It claims that gender roles are arbitrarily constructed, and therefore the relationship between gender and power should be re-evaluated in an unrestricted way. So if you look at the mainstream theories, they are all arbitrarily constructed, because they are not talking of women, they are not talking of the females. Rather, the theories were constructed in such a way that that disadvantage the women, and there is a need to break that kind of gender divide in those theories, and that's why all the theories need to be re-evaluated, reformulated. So that was the priority. In that respect, postmodern feminism suggests that the constructive function of legal discourse should be pursued in order to make the feminist point of political struggle over gender differences more visible. The postmodern feminists, they were particularly concerned that if we want to bring changes in the society, so we have to use the legal discourse, because legal system is highly male centric, and if you want to change the system, then you have to take the legal recourse and to make the feminist point of political struggle over gender differences more visible. Because if you go to the court, if you take the legal recourse, your issues will be highlighted, your problems will be highlighted, your issues for which you have launched the movement, that will be highlighted. So that was the main concern of the postmodern feminist. Furthermore, in studying war, postmodern feminists challenge the epitomes of the male as warrior coined with rationality, and the female as beautiful soul coined with emotion and irrationality respectively. So basically the postmodern feminists, they are against this kind of division between the male and the female, identify males with rationality, with warrior, and the females as beautiful soul, because they are endowed with certain qualities like emotion and irrationality. So that kind of difference perpetuated gender hierarchy or gender differences in the society. Accordingly, they argue that women are not just passive bystanders or victims in a war, but active participants in the system of warfare. So women are not the bystanders, rather they also possess those qualities, that is required for being a warrior, and that is the reason why Plato made no distinction between a female horse and a male horse, because he realized that both the male and female horses, they can do the same thing. So there is no difference. So if there is no difference between animal, then why should there is a difference between the male and the female? So that is the main concern of postmodern feminists. In this line of reasoning, the postmodern feminists strive to a point of dual character of IR, in which the role of women in society should be emancipated. So this kind of dualism, that male are different, females are different, this kind of dualism was not acceptable, and that is how the IR should be reformulated, the IR theory should be reformulated, so that the role of women in any society is highlighted. So that is their basic argument. Next, let us talk about the constructivist feminism. The constructivist feminism basically criticizes the realist assertion that states are the unitary actors of international relations. So we had already discussed about constructivism, that they have many problems with the mainstream theories like the realism, because the realist theory basically talks about the states as the unitary actors. It does not accept the importance of other actors in international politics. They, on the contrary, suggest that states come into being as a dynamic result of social projects compromising their own entities. So basic argument is states are social, whatever the state identity, state interest, nationalism, nation, all are socially constructed. So and if you don't understand this, you just focus on international structure, that it is given, it is something the states cannot change. If you have this kind of perception, definitely that is not going to serve the interest of knowledge or the interest of women. In the same line of reasoning, constructivist feminists particularly asserts that the main concept of IR, such as national interest, state sovereignty, politics, power and security, are all social structures. They are all socially constructed. So you can't avoid the social construction of the reality if you want to really understand the true way in which, or the real way in which international politics is functioning. So we had a very clear cut picture of constructivism that talks about the social understanding of reality, that is talking about the social facts, the role of norms. These are all important for understanding the concepts such as national interest, state or sovereignty. This in turn necessitates the inclusion of social structure into the analysis of international politics. So if you want to understand international politics in a much better way, so instead of focusing on the states, you have to focus on the social nature of the international structure or the social structure, that would give you better understanding of international politics. In that respect, constructivist feminism accepts a direct correlationship between international politics and gender perception. So if you focus on the international politics, you have to accept that there is a direct correlationship between international politics and gender perceptions. Now let us focus our attention on the post-colonial feminism. This type of feminism has developed as a response to feminism, focusing solely on the experiences of women in the Western culture. So those who studied feminism earlier, they were basically focusing on the experiences of women in the Western advanced countries. So post-colonial feminism was conscious of this, and they wanted that the issues, the problems faced by the women in this part of the world, that should also be studied. Therefore, it is primarily preoccupied with the condition of women in colonialized locations. So they shed light on the notion of double colonialization of women, indicating that the women in these countries experience the oppression of not only colonialism but also of patriarchy. So these are the two problems faced by the women in the colonies in the newly developed countries in Africa, Asia and Latin America. So the feminist discourse should focus also on these issues, what has been the role of patriarchy in these countries and what has been the role of colonialism, of course. So these issues were highlighted by the post-colonial feminist thinkers. Furthermore, post-colonial feminists are ordinarily considered as post-structuralists who criticize the secondary role attributed to women in the colonial order arising from imperialism. So the post-colonial feminists, they are also considered as post-structuralists, because they are talking of the colonial order and how this colonial order gave the women the second class status. They also criticize Western feminists for their specific focus largely on Western women who have comparative advantages in the social life, such as access to education, health, their active participation in the liberal order compared to the women from the marginalized and oppressed groups. So the women in the advanced liberal countries, they are enjoying, most of the rights in comparison to the male counterparts. So they have different kind of problems, and here women have different kind of problems that should be acknowledged, that should be breached. Therefore, they criticize on the mainstream feminist theory for not including the conditions of women living outside the core of liberal democratic society into their analysis. So, the main concern of post-colonial feminism was about the problems associated with the women in the less advanced countries, or particularly in the countries of global south or the non-western part of the world. Now, let us discuss about the cultural feminism. In contrast to the other feminist typologies, cultural feminism overlooks the developments in political sphere and focuses on cultural sphere instead. So basically, if you are, you can just understand from its name that they are not interested in politics, rather they are talking of the cultural sphere. It stresses that the male supremacist culture is the main problem of courses of actions defining women by the men. So, it is how the women are understood by their male folks, that is more important than the politics. It is assumed that this type of process is misleading and devaluating the feminine characteristics that can only be improved by adopting a feminist description for more accuracy. So, if you understand the females from the male perspective, that is not the correct approach. You have to understand the problem of the females from the females perspective, and so that's why the role of culture is more important for understanding. So if your family has liberal values, so you will develop a kind of different attitude towards women outside the family. If your family has a very conservative kind of values, so your attitude would definitely be different. So family, culture, these are more important things for shaping your attitude, for formulating your attitude towards the other sex. Furthermore, cultural feminism believes that the qualities present in women are not only unique but also superior to those present in the men. So sometimes we say these are the qualities associated with the male, these are the qualities associated with female, sometimes to perpetuate gender hierarchy in the society. So this is the argument of the cultural feminists that the women not only possess those qualities which are unique, which are different, rather they are better than the male counterparts. These qualities are more of a psychological and cultural nature than biological. So they don't think that it is because of biological reasons the male have different qualities or female have different qualities. Rather, it is basically social in nature, it is cultural in nature, it is psychological in nature. They believe that the female essence should be celebrated and infused with the male dominated world to provide the right balance for the working of the society. So these are not the qualities for which you have to condemn the opposite sex. Rather, these are unique qualities that should be celebrated because that would add a kind of right balance for the working of the society. Like the radical feminist, cultural feminists suggest that this can be attained through the establishment of a matriarchal society in which peace would prevail and conflict would be non-existent. So like the radicals, the cultural feminists also think that if you want to improve the condition of the women in the society, so it is not possible in the male dominated society or patriarchal society. There is a need for a new society which is called matriarchal society. So that is the perception of cultural feminism. Let us summarize what we have discussed so far. The socialist and the Marxist feminists argue that the oppression of women is deeply intertwined with the capitalist system and class structures. These feminist perspectives assert that both gender and class must be analyzed together to understand the global subordination of women. Radical feminism maintains that the root of women's oppression lies in patriarchal structures and power dynamics that permeate all aspects of society, including the global arena. This perspective emphasizes the need to dismantle this deeply entrenched system of male dominance to achieve genuine equality in the society. Postmodern feminism challenges the grand narratives and universal truth of mainstream theories such as realism and liberalism, arguing that instead for the recognition of diverse, localized and fluid experiences of women around the world. Constructivist feminism contends that rather than being fixed, gender identities and the roles in international relations are socially produced by interactions and shared norms. Post-colonial feminists shed light on the notion of double colonialization of women, indicating that they experience oppression of not only colonialism but also patriarchy. Cultural feminism stresses that male supremacist culture is the main problem where men define women, so they suggest that female essence should be celebrated in the male-dominated world to provide the right balance between different sexes. In the next lecture, we will discuss about the contribution of feminism as a theory of international relations. Thank you for your patience. Goodbye. See you in the next lecture. Thank you once again.